Hello, everyone, and welcome back to today's story. The case of a mother murdering her own son seemed to be closed, but it turns out that was just the tip of the iceberg. Today, the real mastermind is finally revealed. Why would a loving mother turn into a monster? The answer lies in the ruthless ambition of a real estate tycoon. They set a gambling trap to manipulate her, forcing her to kill her own son just because Tone refused to sell his professional conscience. Huyen has remembered everything. He recalls the man wearing the bleeding eye ring, the chilling threats, and most importantly, he remembers where the incriminating evidence is hidden. They are surrounding the house. Huyen and diem have only one way to survive. Run. Do not take your eyes off the screen for a single second. Hit the notification bell and subscribe right now, because some breathtaking action is about to unfold. The room was awash in a cold, stark white. The sharp scent of rubbing alcohol mixed with the damp, musty smell of last night's rain. Huyen lay on a bed in the local commune clinic. He had fainted the moment the police van carrying Mrs. Mai disappeared from view. The shock was so massive that his brain automatically shut down to protect him from a complete mental breakdown. But even in sleep, Tone found no peace. In his nightmare, he stood in a desolate field, the wind howling and biting cold. In the distance, a woman stood with her back to him. Her silhouette was heartbreakingly familiar. The graying hair, the back slightly hunched from years of hardship. "Mom!" Tone called out softly in his dream, running toward her. "Mom, don't go. I'm so scared." The woman slowly turned around. At first, she smiled gently, opening her arms wide to welcome him. Huyen rushed forward, ready to dive into his mother's embrace like he did as a child. But the moment he touched her, her face twisted. Her gentle eyes rolled back the whites, turning bloodshot. Her lips curled into a twisted, greedy smile. She didn't hug him. Instead, she reached out with bony hands and strangled him. "Where is my money? Why aren't you dead yet? If you live, who's going to pay me?" Her voice hissed like the caw of a crow. Huyen struggled, gasping for air, tears streaming down. He looked down and saw a piece of paper piercing his chest. It was the life insurance contract, soaked in fresh blood. "No, Mom." Huyen let out a gut-wrenching scream, bolting upright in the hospital bed. He was drenched in sweat, soaking through his patient gown. His heart pounded like it was trying to break out of his chest. He gasped for air, his eyes wide and staring into the void, still unable to distinguish between the nightmare and reality. Huyen, it's me. I'm here." A warm hand gripped his tight. A gentle, familiar voice rang in his ear, pulling him out of the swamp of his nightmare. It was diem. Huyen turned to look at her. His eyes no longer held the vacant look of the past few days. Instead, they held a deep, profound pain, the shattering of a soul that had just been betrayed. The shock of seeing his mother arrested was like a sledgehammer smashing through the wall, blocking his memories. Sharp fragments began to fall, piercing his heart. He remembered. He didn't remember absolutely everything yet, but he remembered the moment he signed that paper. He recalled that afternoon. Mrs. Mai had cooked him a lavish meal. She served him food, laughing and chatting happily, something she rarely did since she fell into gambling. So, Huyen, I'm getting old. Who knows when my time will come? I want to buy you an insurance policy. So if something happens to me, you'll have some capital to start with. She had lied so blatantly, and he, a son so filial it bordered on stupidity, had believed her completely. He had signed his name unknowingly, signing his own death warrant. Huyen buried his face in his hands. His fingers dug into his skin until they drew blood. "Diem!" Huyen's voice broke hoarse and raw. "I remember now. She tricked me into signing it." Diem was stunned. He had his memory back. "What do you remember? Tell me, Huyen." She rubbed his back gently, trying to stifle a sob. "I remember her eyes." Huyen sobbed uncontrollably. "When she handed me the paper, she wasn't looking at me. She was staring at the paper. Her eyes were so greedy, so terrifying. Why didn't I see it? Why was I so stupid?" Huyen's tears poured onto the stark white bedsheet. "She gave birth to me. She raised me. I thought she was the one person who loved me most in this world. I worked day and night sending money to pay off her debts, every single penny. Why did she want me dead?" The question, why, repeated over and over in vain. Huyen didn't care about his own life. He was in agony because the sacred bond of motherhood he had worshipped turned out to be just a commodity with a price tag. He recalled Mrs. Mai in handcuffs, her hateful glare. "Why won't you just die?" "It hurts so much, Diem. My heart hurts. I'd rather be beaten to death by a stranger than know my own mother wanted to kill me." Huyen buried his head in his knees, weeping like a child abandoned in a marketplace. His sobs weren't loud, but they were mournful and desolate enough to break anyone's heart. A grown, capable man was now curled up weaker and more broken than ever before. Watching her husband writhe in absolute agony, Diem felt like 1,000 needles were piercing her own heart. She knew that physical wounds from an accident could heal over time, but the emotional wound inflicted by a birth mother could haunt him for the rest of his life. She couldn't let him sink forever into this darkness. If his world had collapsed, she would use her own small hands to rebuild it for him. Diem climbed onto the bed gently but firmly, pulling Huyen into her embrace. She held his head tight, pressing his face against her chest so he could hear her strong heartbeat. "Huyen, listen to me." Diem's voice rang out extraordinarily steady. Huyen was still sobbing, but he fell silent to listen. "You are not at fault. You are not stupid. You are just a son who is too filial and kind-hearted. The one who is wrong is her. It is greed that blinded her." Diem lifted her husband's tear-streaked face, looking deep into his red-rimmed eyes. "Cry. Cry just for today. Let all the filth and cruelty she threw at you wash away. But remember one thing, she gave birth to you, but she has forfeited her right to be your mother." Diem squeezed Huyen's hand. "From this moment on, you are no longer alone. The whole world may turn its back on you. Your mother may want you dead, but I do not. I am here. I am your wife, your family. I will live for you, and I will die to protect you." Diem. Huyen looked at his wife, his lips trembling. "Whether you remember or not, whether you are a king or a pauper, whether you are hunted by all of society, I will still stand in front of you. No one is allowed to hurt you anymore, unless they step over my dead body." Diem's words weren't flowery, but they carried the weight of a mountain. It was the vow of a woman who had faced life and death alongside her husband. In that moment, Huyen felt a warmth spreading through his frozen body. He realized he had lost a terrible mother, but heaven had compensated him with an amazing wife. He buried his head in Diem's shoulder, wrapping his arms tight around her waist. His sobbing slowly subsided, replaced by a sigh of relief. "Thank you. Thank you for not abandoning me." The rain outside had stopped. The silence became eerie. Diem sat there stroking Toan's hair until he drifted into a restless sleep from exhaustion. But Toan wasn't fully asleep. In that hazy state between wakefulness and dreams, his brain, after releasing some of the emotional burden, began to function again in a strange way. The memories of his mother were clear, but behind the image of his mother, something else lingered. Something far more terrifying than Mrs. Mai. Toan suddenly snapped his eyes open, staring blankly at the ceiling. "Diem," he whispered, his voice tinged with panic. "What's wrong? Are you in pain?" Diem leaned down anxiously. "I remember when she handed me that paper to sign. She wasn't alone." Diem frowned. "Not alone. What do you mean?" Toan closed his eyes, trying to rewind that memory tape. "At that time, there was another person in the room. I couldn't see his face clearly because he was sitting in a dark corner smoking. My mom, she was terrified of him. She kept trembling, glancing over at him while handing me the paper." "Was he a loan shark?" Diem pressed. "No." Toan shook his head, cold sweat breaking out on his forehead again. "If it were a loan shark, Mom would have been groveling. But with this person, Mom showed respect submission. And I remember, after I signed, he stood up and patted my shoulder." Toan shuddered, his hands shaking again. "He said one sentence. He said beautiful signature. Too bad these hands won't be drawing much longer." At the time, Toan thought it was just a polite compliment, but thinking back now, it was a threat. He knew Toan was an architect. He knew those hands were used for drawing. And more importantly, Toan remembered a tiny but haunting detail on his hand, on his ring finger. He wore a gold ring, shaped like a red eye. Diem froze. The red eye. It was that symbol again, the drawing on the scrap of paper at the market, the image on the ring of the hitman in black, and now on the hand of the mysterious man sitting in Toan's mother's house. It was all one. Mrs. Mai wasn't the mastermind. Mrs. Mai was just a puppet being pulled by strings. The person who truly wanted Toan dead, the one who controlled even his mother, was the man wearing the bleeding eye ring. "Diem." Toan gripped his wife's hand, his eyes filled with absolute terror. "My mom is arrested, but he is still out there. He is the one who wants to kill me. My mom owed money, but he wants my life." Diem felt a chill down her spine. She looked out at the pitch-black window. The police had caught Mrs. Mai and the hitman. They thought the case was closed, but they were wrong. The final boss had not yet revealed himself. And if Tone remembered his existence, he surely knew Tone was recovering his memory. Suddenly, Diem's phone sitting on the table vibrated violently. An unknown number. Diem picked it up with trembling hands and put it on speaker. There was no voice on the other end, just steady, cold breathing. And then a whistling melody rang out. It was the tune of a familiar lullaby Toan's mother used to sing long ago. But the whistling was sharp, carrying the eerie tone of a funeral dirge. Then a deep male voice, distorted through a device, spoke just 3 words. "It's not over. Beep, beep, beep." The call cut off. Toan clutched his head and screamed, "It's him! That's his voice!" Diem dropped the phone to the floor. The nightmare wasn't over. Toan's mother was in prison, but the gates of hell had only just officially opened. The enemy knew her phone number. The enemy knew where they were, and he had just declared war. Mrs. Mai has been arrested, but the injustice and danger facing Toan have not been resolved. What organization is this? Who is the man behind it all who can manipulate Toan's own mother? And why is he targeting Toan's architect hands? Is the blueprint. Toan forgot. The key to everything Diem promised to protect Toan. But can she stand against a shadow force closing in from all sides? Diem, lend me a pen and a piece of paper. Toan spoke, suddenly shattering the gloomy atmosphere left by the threatening call. His voice was no longer trembling. Instead, it held a sense of urgency, a strange hunger. Diem hurriedly rummaged through her bag, pulling out a ballpoint pen and the back of an old calendar hanging on the wall. Toan grabbed the pen. The moment his long, slender fingers touched the barrel, a jolt like electricity ran down his spine. These hands, before they were stained with the mud of the grapefruit garden, before they shook with fear, had held a pen. Not to write words, but to draw. Toan began to draw. The initial scribbles quickly straightened into sharp, precise lines. He wasn't drawing a normal house. He was sketching a complex, multi-dimensional structure, intricate parabolic curves, and golden ratios accurate to the millimeter without needing a ruler. Diem stood beside him, her mouth gaping in shock. Her husband, the man who had been childlike for months, was drawing like a master artist. Architect. Toan mumbled, his eyes glued to the paper. I am Dang Van Toan, chief architect of the Cloud City project. A bolt of lightning memory slashed across his mind, illuminating the entire glorious past he had forgotten. He remembered the white nights spent over the drafting table, the smell of thick black coffee, the sound of symphonic music, and the feeling of euphoria when a great idea was born. He wasn't useless. He was a genius in the world of architecture. Diem, I remember. Toan looked up, his eyes burning bright but filled with horror. The reason they want to kill me, the reason Mom got dragged into debt, it's all because of this blueprint. They want to steal it. Memory took Toan back to 6 months ago. In his office, a room flooded with light and models of skyscrapers, the door opened. A man walked in. He wore a luxurious black suit, sunglasses, and on the ring finger of his hand, a gold ring shaped like a red eye glinted. It was the CEO of the Black Dragon Real Estate Group, the biggest competitor in the market, notorious for using ruthless tactics to seize land. He placed a crocodile skin briefcase on Toan's desk. Click! The briefcase opened. Inside were not files, but stacks of crisp blue US dollars neatly arranged. Greetings, Architect Toan. The man said, his tone condescending. This is $1 million, a deposit. You just need to nod your head and become the design director for Black Dragon, and this money is yours. Your monthly salary will be 10 times your current one. The tone of that day glanced at the pile of cash and gave a faint smile. He pushed the briefcase back toward the man. I'm sorry. I design homes for humans to live happily, not concrete boxes for you to launder money. Black Dragon's philosophy doesn't suit me. You're turning down money. The man raised an eyebrow. I'm not turning down money, but I value my honor more. Please leave. The man slammed the briefcase shut, the smile vanishing from his lips. He leaned down, whispering into Tone's ear, "Talent that doesn't serve us becomes a threat. Think carefully. In this land, what cannot be bought with money can be bought with a lot of money. Or with blood." Huyen hadn't taken the threat seriously. He thought it was just the bitterness of a loser. He continued to pour his heart and soul into his masterpiece, the Heart of the Ocean design, a multi-billion-dollar underwater complex that solved the problem of rising sea levels. But Black Dragon didn't let him go. They knew Tone's only weakness wasn't money, wasn't women, but his elderly mother in the countryside. They began a campaign of total manipulation. Huyen recalled the increasingly frequent phone calls from his mother. At first, she bragged about winning a little lottery money. Then came the complaints about losses. Then came the crying calls in the middle of the night. "Huyen, save me. They're threatening to cut my hamstrings." Huyen had naively sent money home. He worked day and night, sold his car, sold his valuables to pay her debts. But he didn't know that the casino his mother played at was set up by Black Dragon. The loan sharks were Black Dragon's men. They pumped money to let her win at first, then rigged it so she lost everything later. They turned a simple farmer into a gambling addict, then used the debt to turn her into a puppet. The breaking point was a week before the accident. Mrs. Mai called Huyen her voice, cold, no longer crying. "Huyen, do you love your mother? I love you more than anything in the world. If you love me, give me the blueprint for the new project. Someone promised to pay off all my debts if I get it." Huyen was stunned. He realized Black Dragon's hairy hand had reached right into his family. "No, Mom, that is the company's property. It's my honor. I can't steal it. I'll earn money to pay your debts another way. You value that drawing more than your mother's life. I'll die for you to see." Omain and Kshimat. Huyen had firmly refused. He chose to uphold his professional ethics. And that refusal triggered Black Dragon's Plan B. If the son couldn't be bribed, use the mother to kill him. They forced Mrs. Mai to sign an agreement. Buy insurance for Huyen, then stage an accident. The insurance money would pay her debts, and the blueprint, they would send someone to rob it directly from Tone's corpse. Diem. Huyen gripped Diem's hand, tight sweat soaking his forehead. That rainy night, I had the original blueprint with me. I was taking it to submit to the appraisal council early to avoid any trouble. Then what happened? "Where is the blueprint?" Diem asked urgently. When the man in black blocked my path, he didn't just beat me, he frisked me. He screamed, "Where is the USB? Where is the blueprint?" Huyen closed his eyes, the headache throbbing again, but he fought through it. Did I swallow the memory card? Did I throw it in the sewer? No. I remember, before meeting him, I felt like I was being watched. I stopped at a post office. Diem held her breath. "You sent it away." "Yes, I mailed it." Huyen's eyes lit up. "I mailed it to the address of an old teacher I trust the most. I didn't keep it on me. That's why they went crazy. They beat me half to death because they couldn't find the blueprint. So," Diem deduced, "they still don't have it. Your mom was arrested for murder, but Black Dragon's ultimate goal, the blueprint, is still out of their reach." Exactly. They thought if I died or lost my memory forever, that blueprint would be lost to time. But now they know I'm alive and that I might be remembering. They're terrified I'll get the blueprint back and publish it or expose them. Huyen looked out the pitch-black window. Now he understood why the man with the bleeding eye ring called. He didn't just want revenge. He wanted a trade. Either Huyen hands over the blueprint, or both he and his wife die. We can't sit here and wait to die. Huyen stood up abruptly. The posture of a resilient architect returned, overpowering the frailty of the patient. That blueprint is my life's work, but it is also evidence of their crimes. If I can retrieve it, I can send the entire Black Dragon group to prison. But, honey, diem asked anxiously. Who is this old teacher? Do you remember the address? Huyen furrowed his brows. The fog in his memory still lingered in patches. I just remember he lives in an old pagoda on the mountain. His name is Master Tam. That's right, Master Tam. Suddenly dogs barked furiously in the alleyway. The roar of motorbike engines erupted. Not one, but many. Headlights swept wildly through the cracks in the door. They were here. They weren't waiting for Huyen to fully remember anymore. They had decided to kidnap him, to torture the location of the blueprint out of him. Diem, run! Huyen screamed, grabbing Diem's hand and dashing toward the back door. We have to go up the mountain. We have to find Master Tam before they do. Two shadows bolted into the night, cutting through the grapefruit garden, fleeing the pursuit of a ruthless force. Behind them, the door to the rental house was kicked in. Thugs wielding clubs stormed in, but found only an empty room and the unfinished sketch on the table. The leader picked up the calendar paper, looking at the sharp professional lines. He sneered into his walkie-talkie. Boss, he remembers. He can draw again. The prey is running toward the mountains. Seal off the entire area. My dear friends, from a naive victim, Huyen has awakened to become the holder of the most important key. Where is the heart of the ocean design? Does the mysterious teacher on the mountain still have it? And how fierce will the race between a poor couple and a powerful criminal syndicate become? Huyen and Diem's fate is now hanging by a thread. Smash that like button to give them strength and subscribe immediately. The next episode will feature breathtaking action sequences, the jungle escape, and the mysterious pagoda.